It's episode number 2, it's season number 2. Liverpool are champions, Manchester United are stuck in the mud. Let's find out what happens in episode number 2. Hello and welcome to Gone on Holiday, the Football Manager YouTube channel that puts you, the community, in charge. Last episode we saw Liverpool lift the Premier League title after all the teams had their players completely and utterly wiped. Some teams picked up some good bargains and spent their £100 million well. Others didn't do so much. One of those teams being Manchester United, who sacked their manager. We are actually one day away from the season starting, so what better time than now to actually look at the Premier League table and have a look to see what business some of these teams have been doing. So Arsenal have still got Mikel Arteta in charge, and as you can see, they've filled out their squad nicely. It looks like they've recruited quite well as well, filling in a couple of gaps as they needed. Was a good strong finish by Arsenal last season. Have a look at Chelsea, who snuck into that top 4, and they've brought in Mason Greenwood, who went to go and play in Qatar with Xavi last season. He's back in now, signed for just £10 million, so good signing there. We'll check the rest of the signings for Chelsea. Not too much. Lodi from Madrid and Dest from Barca. And Sam Johnson from Real Madrid, obviously formerly of West Brom and Manchester United, of course. So I feel like that might be a thing we start to see in this save, is those players who are on free transfers, who went to go and play abroad, didn't get much game time, and now are coming back into the Premier League. We'll check Champions Liverpool squad, and again it looks full of quality. You can see they bought Disney in from Leicester and Milinkovic-Savic as well, which they tend to do a lot in the saves I've played, so a quality signing there. We'll check out the transfer history just to make sure we haven't missed anything. And Asunciao's come in, Brazilian centre midfielder who looks really good. And Adrissa has gone out, so like for like there really. So it should be another good season for Liverpool in all honesty. Now Manchester United were highly on our radar. They've bought Massimo Allegri in, and have they brought in much quality here? My immediate thought is no. They have managed to bring in players though, which is what they needed. For bringing in for bringing in 9-10 players for £84 million, it's kind of what they needed to do. They're not playing any kind of European football, which you could say is a bad thing, but they're not going to have that distraction this season. It is going to affect the quality of players they can bring in, but I think really what they needed was to sort out the squad before they sorted out their actual starting 11, which isn't too bad. They'll definitely be hoping to beat their 9th place finish from last season. We'll check out Manchester City, who still have Pep in charge. A 3rd place finish for them last season, and have somehow managed to spend £243 million, despite only getting circa £2 million in. So I'm probably going to say that some kind of sugar daddy came in there and really helped them out. We could have changed the settings here so that every team did get the same amount of money, but I did want to keep some realism, and to be fair, if Man City came 3rd, chances are they'd go ahead and do exactly this anyway. So some real quality coming in there. On top of their already, it was a good team. They got Mane, they've got Salah, Ziyech. They've got a good team now, but also like in real life, they've got a really good squad. So expect these to challenge Liverpool this season. And we'll have another look at Spurs, who have Bielsa in charge. And again, it's pretty much at this stage just filling in that squad. A lot of squad players here. £90 million spent. Some half decent players on that list. I think if they can get back up into the top four, because they did have a good starting 11 last season. I think they were running on empty towards the back end. And if we just sort the actual transfers of the Premier League, we can see that players like Guendouzi are coming back, having joined a team in China. Curtis Jones was picked up by Nottingham Forest. What a signing that was, but unfortunately they've been unable to hold on to him. Brighton have snapped him up for 16 mil. But most of the damage seems to be done by Man City here. Liverpool paying 35 mil for Disney. I'm just looking for Premier League players on the move. Lindelof, having joined Leicester on free, has gone to Inter. Same with Mendy, joining Arsenal on a free, he's gone to Shakhtar. Mason Greenwood, we've already picked that one up. Smith Rowe from Arsenal, he's joined from a UAE team. He's joined Burnley, who again had a cracking season last season. Ampadu coming back in from, again, UAE. So it should be an interesting season. Let's go on holiday until the end of the season and we'll give you a full roundup. It is the end of season 2. Let's jump straight into the Premier League table and see if Liverpool were able to defend their crown. They were not. They've missed out on top to Man City, who we said were going to give them a good run for their money this season. Closely followed, very, very closely followed by Arsenal. United up in 4th, which is, again, a great result for them. Chelsea in 5th. Spurs beating their finish from last season get 6th. Everton in 7th, but qualifying for the Europa League, and the same with Burnley as well. So something's gone on there. And that something is the Euro Cup 2. Burnley have won that on penalties. Lacazette inspired last season. Let's see if he's still there. He's still there, and he's beating his tally from last season, 31 in 58. Carlin Grant helping him out this season with 18 goals as well. A great return. He was the only player to get double digits last season. So a 9th place finish and into the Europa League next season. That is a good season for Sean Dyche's men. And Everton, I can only imagine, have done something similar perhaps. They have gone and beaten their local rivals on penalties in the FA Cup final. Ryan Bertrand getting the winning penalty there, so that pops them into the Europa League as well, which does mean Spurs drop down into the Euro Cup 2. Newly promoted Brentford and Reading go straight back down, and Norwich managed to stay up. So let's see how those squads looked at the end of the season. We've got Mane and Salah again on 18 and 20. Martinez leading the line, again came in the summer from Inter Milan on big money, and he is rewarded. Pep and the board, they've still got Pogba and Ward-Prowse in centre midfield. Did they bring anyone in during the season? Nope, they didn't need to. They spent big, again, £243 million. They already had a good team as well, so again, they were always probably going to be favourites, as good as this Liverpool side is. And that is a Liverpool side with Harry Kane in, getting 26 goals and 20 assists, supported by Sterling, who ended up on 24 and 15 assists. Aguero chipping in with 11 goals. Milinkovic-Savic on 15 and 9 assists. Werner as well, chipping in with 10 goals. So they've got the firepower. They just couldn't get it over the line. I think it was always going to be one of the two teams, Liverpool or City there. That being said, Arsenal finished on the exact same points as them. Arteta still in charge. And again, looking at the starting 11, there's not too much in it. Sharing the spoils between the front four, some good returns in there. We'll see if they manage to bring in anyone in the January transfer window. They did get Kyle Walker-Peters from Dortmund. Again, he'll be someone else that went away for free at the beginning of this save. and Vinicius Junior's coming from loan, having spent last season at Chelsea. And let's check out this United side then. Allegri's still in charge. 4th place for these guys is, I think they would have taken that at the beginning of the season. Again, it's not filled with huge names. So we've got Mariano leading the goal scoring charts with 18 in 34. Havertz on 16 with 12 assists. Really good return from him as well. Other than that, not too much by way of goals, but 4th place, I think they'll definitely take that. No one in January either. Obviously not needed. Have a look at Chelsea. And they've got Oyarzabal finishing on 20 goals. Harvey Barnes again, 15. Mason Greenwood's come in and got 14 on his debut season for Chelsea. Again, it's a good-looking team. They've got players like McTominay, Ben Godfrey as well, sat on the bench. Ake, Matip, Bernardo Silva, the Ox. They'll be disappointed not to get 4th, at the very least. Let's check if they did bring anyone in January. A couple of signings, but nothing to write home about in particular. And we'll look at Spurs last but not least. And again, they're relying on players like Rashford, maybe Robertson. Kyle Walker barely played. It's a bit of a strange one for Spurs. It looks a bit like a 6th place team, if I'm totally honest. They didn't bring anyone in January. It's Bielsa's team. Maybe next season he'll get them to where they want to be, which I'm sure is higher than 6th. So the top goal scorer in the league was actually Edouard, who signed for Southampton last season. 25 in 36, beating Harry Kane's 19. Mariano, Lacazette, Shea Adams as well, all on 17. What a great return. Well, I don't even know where Southampton finished. Southampton managed to finish 10th, but had the leading goal scorer, so something's gone wrong there. Perhaps a bit shaky at the back, not too much in midfield. Alex Iwobi still getting 36 games. But yeah, what a return from Edouard, 36 in 49. And he's wanted by Liverpool and Man City, so expect to see him at one of those two next season. And we will quickly see how the teams got on in the Champions League. So Arsenal knocked out by Juve, City through against Atletico Madrid, and Napoli knocking out Liverpool, so big upset there. So that just leaves City flying the flag, and it's City getting knocked out by AC Milan. So we will go through and see who won it in the end, and it was AC Milan, and we'll see if they've got any of the Premier League players who may have left. No one I can see there, so congratulations to them. We'll drop down into the Europa League, and again, no English teams in the final, no English teams in the semi-final, and Leicester knocked out of the quarters. So not a great return for the English clubs in Europe. We will go on holiday straight the way through to the beginning of next season, and let's have a look at how season number 3 is shaping up. It's a day before season number 3 starts. Let's jump in and see what's been going on with the transfers. So some real big names from the very get-go. For some reason, Brighton were able to pick up Thomas Partey. He's now gone to Atletico Madrid for 60 mil. City have managed to pick up Frank Kessie from Champions League winners AC Milan. And Tielemans again was one of those players that gets picked up at the beginning of this save by a Chinese team. He's been picked up by Chelsea. Ruben Neves the exact same, but he's gone to Manchester City. Timo Werner has gone back to Germany after being picked up by Liverpool. Thiago's gone to Madrid, and they're pretty much your headlines. The rest seems to be the teams getting players off the books maybe that they bought in at the beginning of this save. Or it's just the teams lower down picking up some players, trying to catch up and close the gap on the top 6, 8, 10 maybe arguably. But I'm not seeing any big moves for either Lacazette or Edouard, which is surprising at this stage. We won't look at the squads too much in depth. We'll do that at the end of this season. So let's just go on holiday and see how it all pans out. Okay, we're at the end of season number 3. There's so much for us to get through. Before we do that, please do like the video, subscribe. It really, really does help. And if you're on Twitch, come and follow on Twitch as well. So without further ado, let's check out the Premier League table. And it is Manchester City's Premier League title once more, again beating Liverpool, who finished in second, and Arsenal in third for the second year running. Chelsea beating Manchester United to fourth. That will please them no end. And we've got Spurs in sixth, up from 8th last season. And again, Southampton sneaking in to a Europa Cup 2 place. Followed by Leicester, Brighton, Everton and Leeds. And it is, again, newly promoted Bristol City, Fulham and Palace all down. So no huge shock there with Pep Guardiola's Manchester City winning for a second time in a row. I can see they did manage to bring in Haaland, and they obviously managed to bring him in for big money. 27 in 37 games with 9 man of the matches. For some reason, he's unhappy. And a slight spoiler there is Manchester City didn't win the Champions League. If that's the only thing that's making them unhappy, geez. They've still got Salah and they've still got Mane, who again are just chipping away at those goal tallies. And Pogba and Kessie in centre midfield again. It's a really, really strong starting 11 at the very least. They've got in Justin James as well, who did go to Real Madrid from the very beginning of this save. And again, to have players like Martinez on the bench, Saliba, Hector Bellerin, James Maddison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, they're all not getting a sniff in here. Ruben Neves, not only have they got a world-class starting 11, but their squad is really, really strong. I would imagine that they've overtaken Liverpool on paper as well as in the league as well. And some really, really good, strong signings there as well, making a really big statement there. And we're starting to see some of the money come back in as well as they start to offload. Some of the players they got in early doors, probably on free transfers, so your Reguilon, Ziyech, Ross Barkley's gone on loan. So a good bit of business from Pep and the board, gets them their second league title. Let's have a look at Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp's still in charge. And yes, suddenly it's not looking as strong as that Man City squad. It's still a ridiculously good squad. And they've got some good high performers on this game as well. They've still got Harry Kane up front, who's not been banging them in as much as I've seen in previous saves. Raheem Sterling outscoring him this season. But again, it's another really big squad as well. And they did bring in Ainsley Maitland-Niles, again, one of those that went to the UAE just at the beginning of this save. Christian Romero and Pellegrini coming in as well. And Asensio for 40 million. So big spenders, but also big receivers as well. Shipping out, I think they signed him not long ago. Pretty much getting their money back on Disney. Selling Ricardo Pereira again, who they picked up on free transfer. Schmeichel, Zaha, Wan-Bissaka, all on free transfer. So able to recoup some of their money there. And let's have a look at Arsenal, who still have Arteta as manager. It's a good midfield. They've managed to pick up Ferran Torres from Chinese team again. Mario Götze came in too. And it looks like they've brought in Icardi from PSG. And between himself, Son, Phillips, Torres, and I did see Tammy Abraham on the bench here, all getting a really, really good return in the goal scoring charts. Let's have a look at the transfers. And it's big money on Quaresma, centre half from Sporting, and 20 mil on Aaron Martin. Other than that, I think we're seeing a bit of a pattern emerging, is other than probably Man City, is the Premier League teams are having to sell before they can buy, or probably buying and then going on to sell. But again, really good team and lots in depth as well. Interesting to see the difference between Chelsea and United here. Again, it's looking strong. They've got strength in depth as well. So I guess this whole kind of rejig around of all the players in the league, I think a lot of the players for the weaker teams have kind of ended up being squad players for the top 6, 7, 8 teams. I think we're starting to see that now because these squads are stacked with really good players, but a lot of them aren't getting anywhere near the team. And we'll see who Chelsea bought in by way of transfers. Again, we picked up the Tielemans. A couple of 20 mil players coming in, 13 mil there. Not so much going out, which is quite surprising. But again, these big clubs like Chelsea, like Man City, they do have the reputation and probably the finances. Even though we put in all the finances the same, I guess you can't do anything about the chairman putting money in, so I'm sure that's happened somewhere down the line there. Allegri still in charge of United despite coming 5th. And again, not too much by way of household names, and not too much coming in or out for United by way of transfers this season. They did manage to get João Felix in, and that was this season for 125 mil. So that would be why they didn't bring in many players, because they can't afford to buy anyone else. So yeah, again, good starting 11. After that, I'm struggling for names here, and the 5th place finish probably tells us all we need to know there. And we'll do Spurs last, but certainly not least. Have they been able to add a little bit more depth to that good starting 11 they've got? Rashford getting 22 goals, Darwin Núñez playing up front for them, and Munir as well. So a couple of good signings there. And yep, 114 mil out and 100 mil on the nose. Back in, Carlos Soler being sold for 50 mil to Juve, doing the most of that damage. So let's go and check out the stats for this season number 3. And yeah, Haaland in 27 in 37. He's streets ahead, as are probably Man City. Then Abraham alone on 18. Patson Daka and Macias finishing on 17. Then we've got João Felix, Sterling on 16 apiece. Dele Alli on 15 playing for Everton. And Edouard, a quiet season by his standards. Perhaps unhappy at some of it for not getting his move. But yeah, just the 15 league goals for him this season. And in terms of the FA Cup this season, it will be Liverpool versus Manchester City, and it is Liverpool who exact revenge on City and pick up the FA Cup. And it's Arsenal beating Spurs in a drab 0-0, winning on penalties in the Carabao Cup final there. And Champions League, well, we know it wasn't Man City, and we can see from this screen that Man City were actually knocked out in the first knockout round by Bayern Munich on penalties. Roma knocked United out. Barcelona knocked Arsenal out, and luckily Liverpool beat last season's champions Milan 4-0 in Milan to go through. So they are flying the flag by themselves for England, and they were knocked out in the next round by Roma. We will go on to see who actually won it in the end, and it was Juve beating Barcelona. Have a little look at the Europa League. Again, no English team in the final, no English team in the semi-final, and Chelsea literally exactly the same as last season. The highest placing English team were knocked out in the quarterfinal. Is it worth looking at the Euro Cup too? Yes, it is, because Spurs getting beat in the final is always pretty funny. Sorry, Spurs fans. But yeah, disappointing again for the English teams in Europe. And that takes us to the end of season 3 and the end of the video as well. If you did enjoy it, please do like, please do subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And stick around for the next episode as well, where we'll be doing the season 4 and season 5 roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.